Shondell shot him and killed him.
My son is not a monster. He is not a monster.
He smiled as his sentencing was read aloud.
You'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
What is going on? Why are these people like this?
And Khalil repeatedly hit him in the head.
A school shooting, multiple injuries, this time outside Denver. And what is somewhat different about this case so far, there were 2 shooting suspects.
Sorry to everybody who I stole their innocence and high school experience.
We asked Michelle Miller to find out what she could about the suspect, T.J. Lane.
As much as we wish school shootings were a thing of the past, they continue to occur, leaving behind a trail of devastation and heartbreak. When the perpetrators of these heinous crimes are finally brought to justice and sentenced, the reactions can be just as varied as the individuals themselves, from stoic acceptance to tearful remorse. Here are the top 10 school shooters reacting to life sentences. Number 1, T.J. Lane. On the morning of February 27, 2012, a shooting took the lives of 3 students and injured 3 others. The incident shocked the community and sparked national attention on school shootings and gun violence. Chardon High School's cafeteria was open, and many students would gather there, some to have breakfast, while others waited for a bus. It was reported that a male student stood up in the cafeteria and started firing, which caused confusion and disorder. Surveillance video showed the culprit, later identified as T.J. Lane, the culprit. A 17-year-old, also known as Che, was arrested, and he admitted to the shooting but couldn't explain why he did it in a courtroom packed with victims' families.
I'm totally disgusted by that, but it has been our position all along that he knew what he was doing, he planned this out, and what he did today is consistent with what we thought of him all along.
The judge gave T.J. Lane 3 consecutive life sentences for his heinous crimes. Number 2, Sky Bush. A man from Crystal River confessed to shooting a weapon through a door and injuring a student at Forest High School. The incident made the entire student body frightened for their safety, and the perpetrator was found guilty and sentenced to a lengthy prison term, leaving him no choice but toed down on the ground. Bush admitted to researching church and school shootings. He said he felt that church shootings got no attention in the media, while school shootings received more or publicity. When asked why he did it, Bush replied that it had been built up since he was a young child, not being around good things. A lot of mental illness, violence, and neglect contributed to his outburst. Bush said it wasn't a good day, and he could have pumped the shotgun, but he just dropped it. He also apologized to the injured student.
I'm about to just do something, and I spend most of my time in a room alone, so I'm getting this rush.
But acknowledged that the student could think what he wanted to. Book asked the judge if could get a lighter sentence, but the judge denied his request. Number 3, Caleb Sharp. On September 13th, 2017. Sharp brought multiple weapons to school and opened fire on his classmates, taking the life of Strahan, injuring 3 girls and terrorizing dozens of others. He was arrested and brought to court. The courtroom was silent as the judge announced Caleb Sharp's sentence during his court hearing. The Freeman school shooter, Caleb Sharp, offered a public apology. For the first time, he expressed remorse and stated that there was only one thing he could say.
Scars on their bodies and their minds that I can never erase or take back. And most of all, I am sorry to Amy and Emily for taking Sam from them.
Shocking in its scope that a child in this day and age who was really crying out for help was allowed to carry out such a heinous crime when the writing was pretty much on the wall for everyone to see, but no one seriously looked. As counsel correctly pointed out, lots of kids have an IEP. Lots of kids are depressed and confused at what is already likely a turbulent time in their lives. Lots of kids have ADHD, but they don't go shoot up a school.
Which was that he was sorry. The judge ruled that the maximum sentence allowed by law nearly 46 years to life in prison would have been appropriate. It's a sobering reminder that actions have consequences and that healing takes time. Number 4, Ethan Crumbley. On November 30th, 2021, Oxford High School was the site of one of Michigan's most devastating school shootings. 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley, a student at the school, entered the building with a loaded 9mm semi-automatic handgun, which he had obtained. Just 4 days prior, Crumbley had written in his journal that he would cause the biggest school shooting in Michigan's history.
Is it true that you asked him to buy the firearm? Yes. Is it true that you gave him your own money to buy the firearm?
Yes. And has fully mentally lost it. And tragically, he did exactly what he had planned. He took the lives of 3 students and injured 8 others in court on Monday, April 24, 2023. Crumbley appeared in an orange jumpsuit with a medical mask pulled below his chin, pleading guilty to all charges. He was accused of taking the lives of 4 students and wounding 7 others, including a teacher. The prosecutor described it as a landmark case, and the judge asked him if it was his choice to plead guilty. Crumbley answered, "Yes, sir." Crumbley confirmed that he had taken the lives of each victim, all identified by name, and admitted that he had retrieved the gun from an unlocked container in his home on the day off shooting. Crumbley, who now faces up to life in prison without parole, showed no emotion during the plea hearing. Number 5, Brandon Spencer. Brandon Spencer, a 21-year-old man, was convicted of 4 counts of shooting 4 people at a Halloween party on the University of Southern California campus. He was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. The court proceedings were emotional, with Spencer pounding his forehead twice on the desk and sobbing as the judge read his sentence. Spencer's defense attorney pleaded for a lenient sentence.
"I'm sorry for what happened to you, but he's life in prison. And I'm not a bad person, but I made mistakes. I'm not just some gangbanger that she tried to betray me as."
Citing the totality of his life during the trial, they told the jury that Spencer was a documented, well-known gang member who had been shot in the stomach in August 2011 by an unidentified rival gang member. Before his sentencing, Spencer apologized in court, saying, "I'm sorry for what happened, but I can't spend the rest of my life in prison." It's a tragic end to a young life full of promise, but ultimately derailed by poor choices and involvement in a dangerous gang lifestyle.
The period of parole eligibility is 15 years plus 25 years of life in accordance with Penal Code Sections 12022. 3D, this is to be concurrent.
And Spencer will spend the rest of his life behind bars, paying the price for his actions. Number 6, Car Neal. On the morning of December 1st, 1997, a teenage boy named Car Neal had a sinister plan brewing. In his mind, he had wrapped a shotgun and a rifle in a blanket, disguising them as an art project, and carried a loaded pistol in his backpack. Accompanied by his sister Carniola, arrived at school at around 7:45, and he quickly inserted earplugs into his ears and retrieved the pistol from his bag. Without hesitation, he began firing at a youth group of students quickly, unleashing 10 rounds of bullets. The horrific incident claimed the lives of 3 innocent girls, and 5 other students were gravely injured. Carnival's twisted plan had been executed, leaving the school community and the victims' families in shock and despair after the shooting. He was diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder and dysthymia in October 1998. Michael Carney, due to his mental illness, entered a guilty plea, which was accepted as part of the plea agreement. The judge agreed to accept the plea on the condition that Cornell would be sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole in 25 years, which would be in 2022.
You have been incarcerated for 25 years, so the world is much different.
I don't remember firing the gun or how many times I fired it, but the next thing I remember is people laying on the ground.
When was the last time that you heard one of these voices that told you to do something harmful?
A couple of days ago.
Do you recall what that voice told you to do?
jump off the stairs.
As recent as 2 days ago, you're saying voices are still telling you to do harmful things.
Yeah, it's not something I have acted on in very long time.
Prosecutor Tim Keltenbach stated that this plea arrangement allowed Carnell to receive mental health treatment while in prison for as long as necessary or until his release. Number 7. Demetrios Pegaitis. In May 2018, a tragic school shooting occurred at Santa Fe High School in Santa Fe, Texas, taking the lives of 10 individuals, including 8 students and 2 teachers. 13 others were also injured. The perpetrator of the shooting was identified as 17-year-old student Demetrios Pegaitis, who was later arrested at the time. This shooting was considered the 3rd deadliest high school shooting in the United States. He was with the capital deaths of multiple people and aggravated assault against a police officer, and was held without bond in the Galveston County Jail. As he was a minor during the shooting, he is ineligible for the death penalty or life without parole. He faces a life sentence with the possibility of parole. After 40 years upon entering the court, he seemed calm and showed no remorse for his actions. He answered every question without even stuttering. President Trump ordered all U.S. flag eggs to be flown at half-staff from May 18th until May 22nd to show respect for the victims. Barry Luke Itis on February 2nd, 1996, a school shooting occurred at Frontier Middle School in Moses Lake, Washington, USA. The perpetrator was 14-year-old Barry Dale. Luke Itis, who shot and took the lives of his algebra teacher and 2 students and held his classmates hostage before being subdued by agent coach during the incident at Frontier Middle School. The shooter, Barry Dale. Luke Itis arrived at school dressed in a Wild West outfit with a black duster. He brought with him a hunting rifle and 2 handguns that belonged to his father. After walking from his house to the school, he entered his algebra classroom during the 5th period. The Lucas family was dealing with several issues, and their home environment was dysfunctional. Psychologist, hired by the defense, believed that Barry Lucas had depression or bipolar disorder at the same time. Dr. Alan Eunice, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at the University of Washington, and a prosecution witness diagnosed him with dysthymic disorder. The Spokane Court of Appeals had to determine whether to try Luke Itis as an adult or a juvenile in July. Judge Evans, Spurline, allowed court-appointed psychiatrist Joan Petrick to present testimony regarding Lucas's mental health due to the media's attention. The trial was moved from Spokane to Seattle, Washington. Luke Itis pleaded insanity on all charges, but in 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court Antat people convicted of committing a capital crime when they were under 18 years old could not receive automatic life terms without parole in 2016. The policy was applied retroactively during a resentencing in 2017. Luke Itis apologized for the first time, saying it was because he was weak and stupid. He was sentenced to 189 years in prison.